When a loved one or family member's health deteriorates to the point they must move in with you, everyone's life changes. You'll find yourself in many stressful and perplexing situations. Caregiving Tips A to Z, Alzheimer's and Other Dementias by Starr Calo-oy takes the family caregiver through every hands-on procedure necessary to care for your loved one at home. Every difficult situation the family caregiver faces is addressed, and numerous ideas to solve them easily are provided. This complete caregiving manual will help you and your family effectively communicate with all medical professionals to obtain maximum results for your loved one. Caregiving Tips A to Z, Alzheimer's and Other Dementias is colorfully illustrated and has been done in large print so it's easy to read. Providing complete care for a loved one is very noble. The proper caregiving tools will make your endeavor easier. Get your copy of the book today. Caregivers A to Z, Alzheimer's and Other Dementias by Starr Calo-oy. Available at caregiversadvice.net. caregiversadvice.net. That's caregiversadvice.net.
Stress of caring for your loved one can lead to many emotional roller coasters, including anger. Starr Calo-oy has advice for caregivers going through challenges and how to handle those tough times.
Starr Calo-oy, as always, glad to have you. We're talking this morning about paranoia in your loved one, and you and I were discussing earlier, this is a real problem, and it's one that's likely to happen to someone you're caring for, especially an elderly loved one.
Yes.
Let's talk about some of the fears associated with paranoia.
Yes. Well, let's take dementia, okay, because that's what we specialized in for so many years. There's a lot of different fears that come up. They may have a fear of being poisoned, and they won't take their meds. They think you're trying to poison them. They may think you're trying to poison their food, so they don't want to eat. They may think you're trying to poison their drink, and they refuse to drink. And that's a very difficult thing for a family member to try to sit there and convince them, because the more they try, the more that they go in the other direction.
Yes, and you talk about a number of things that come as possible fears. One of the ones my great aunt dealt with was thinking that people who had passed on were still alive, and she thought she saw them.
Or they're sitting right next to you.
Yeah.
Those are delusions or hallucinations, and there's absolutely nothing you can do to convince your loved one. You sit down and say, okay, let's have a talk, let's visit. This is great, and bring a extra cup of coffee. You don't need to fight it. That's the whole thing that I'd like for everybody to understand. You don't need to correct them. You don't need to teach them. You don't need to try to convince them. They're going to forget in 30 minutes anyway.
That's true.
So let's just relax and go with the flow.
Let's talk about this one, the belief that family and friends are dangerous.
Dangerous strangers.
Yes, to their
right.
wellness.
Well, they may think that, for example, let's say that I'm the mother, I'm your mother, and I say, I don't have a daughter named Bridget. I don't even know who you are. Get out of my house. I'm going to call the police. Now, that's a terribly devastating blow to any family member, because they've been taking care of them all that time.
Right.
My own mother doesn't recognize me, so don't take it personally. That's the main thing. Don't take all this personally. They can't help what they're going through right now.
Yes.
But there are things that we can do to try to make it better. We want to make sure that we check their caffeine and their sugar. We want to make sure that they are getting their sleep, getting their rest. You want to have the doctor reevaluate the medications so that there may be a conflict there. If it's a recent occurrence of the paranoia, or it seems to be escalating, it may be a conflict of medications. So that may be another reason. You don't want to take them into crowds. You don't want to take them in the car. When they get back home, they'll be confused, and it can devastate them. And they may not be getting their sleep because of that.
Now, what is a logical plan of action you can take for someone who is dealing with paranoia?
Well, I would say stick to the routine, first of all, their routine. Let them eat the same time every day, the same meal, the same time, in the same place, with the same lighting, the same sounds, everything. You want to keep their routine exactly the same as much as possible, because any kind of variance of that can cause them to react to it. That's if they suffer from paranoia or anger, a lot of anger.
Now, is it likely, Starr, that paranoia will escalate over time, or is it based upon how, quickly someone's brain is degenerating?
It can actually come and go. It can be there and be strong, Bridget, and then maybe 2 months later they don't have any paranoia at all. And we don't really know what that is. Sometimes it's because it's due to the dissolving of the brain. And then when they get past that stage of the dementia that they're in, it disappears. But we don't want to laugh at them. That's another thing. They may be extremely hilariously funny, but don't laugh at them, because with a paranoid person, you might get punched in the nose.
And we know being humorous is not their intention.
No.
One of the things I've often heard the children of parents say, especially if they're caring for a loved one, is, oh, mother's just pretending like she doesn't remember, or she's just putting on. I've heard,
she
I've heard kids say that.
Yeah. And you've got to understand, this is the same person you've been looking at all these years. They look the same. They look the same on the outside, but you don't know what's happening on the inside. So you have to understand, they're not doing it to offend you, to make you angry, to get attention, to do anything like that. All they're doing right now is they are going through all these changes in their brain, and you need to adjust yourself, not try to adjust them. And we've got all those tips in our book.
Of course. Starr Calo-oy, thank you so much for being here again.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it.
And of course, we have free counseling to anybody that would need help. We do free counseling for your elderly loved one and you.
That's great news. Thank you, Starr.
Okay.
All right.
And don't forget that Caregiving 101 with Starr and Bob Calo-oy, when they're not here, they're also available on the air, KKYX 680 AM, Saturday mornings from 9 to 10 a.m., Caregiving 101, and then from 10 to 11 a.m., it's Marriage 101. Call them if you have any questions. It's 210-521-8668, and also there is their website, caregiversadvice.net. Coming